Indian politics has taken a kind of sharp turn to the right.
Mob lynchings happen.
Yeah.
It's true.
There are some lunatics in our country, undeniable.
But they are using these issues to divert attention from the main problem, which is the economy.
What is this government doing? Indian politics has taken a kind of sharp turn to the right, at the very least, for the last 4 or 5 years. And so I'm going to ask Arvind to jump in. Do you think it's good?
In a sense, it's been happening throughout the world. So usually hyper nationalism and right-wing nationalism, as in being homophobic and being pro-majority and everything, has been going on the world throughout. So
You mean xenophobic?
Oh, okay, xenophobic. Okay, sorry, not homophobic. Sorry, yeah, xenophobic. Sorry, yeah, xenophobic throughout the world. So I don't see why it should be a concern. It is a concern when they start using and abusing the majority in a lot of ways, as in start intimidating and they.
Is that happening?
Yeah, I think it seems happening. It seems to be happening.
I think so. I think they are en route.
To that.
They have already started doing things because you cannot just.
You start with dividing people. You start with the segregation in some sense. As in, you make it a us versus them thing.
Yeah.
Do you think it's happening?
I feel that religious intolerance, in a sense, has been growing over the past 5 years or so, majorly after BJP getting elected.
Okay.
So they're using religion as a tool to divide the country.
Okay.
That is what I feel.
Not only religion. Not only religion. Of course, they're
But
doing
they are
religion.
driving that as an
Yeah,
agenda.
yeah. Talking
So
about.
the contention is they're dividing, the ruling party is dividing people and showing the differences to people. And so, to be honest, I've been less worried about it than people have been mentioning.
Okay.
They have had this streak, but if you speak to right wingers, who are actually, some of them are very sensible people, they always come back with saying, "Tell me what has happened. Tell me what has happened, which has satisfied kind of two conditions, which is particularly ruthless on one community of people, and two, which is not anything more than a reflection of society." And I really struggle to come up with an instance. So if they say
Mob lynchings happen.
Yeah.
It's true. People
mob
are
lynchings have happened.
correct.
They have
As in,
happened.
doesn't mean something has
I'm not
happened in
saying
the
I'm not
past.
condoning mob lynchings. And so, but mob lynchings have been incidents and not a theme.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes our media also goes overboard in calling everything
No,
up.
what if it starts becoming a pattern? Then it is trouble. Let's say mob lynchings have been happening since 1300s. Right now, in the last 5 years, what if people are getting more brazen in doing that?
Are they?
Then it is a trouble.
I think the media is highlighting.
I think-
there are some linear bits. Fine, my issue with the entire mob lynching.
Even the mob
lynching.
the reason behind mob lynchings is
That
that
doesn't make any sense.
accusing of people who are eating beef.
Beef. Yeah.
Correct.
That is the reason behind.
Correct. That is a more recent spate of mob lynching. Mob lynchings, my contention, or the right-wing contention, is mob lynchings have happened.
Correct.
Fine, so
Doesn't mean today it
we
is
are
happening.
highlighting it and popularizing it. There are some lunatics in our country, undeniable. There is no ground for justifying any lynching. Their contention is every time you highlight and showcase and try to make a villain out of some guy who's lynching, to some other audience, he's becoming the hero of that lynching. And every time we're giving the lifeblood for lynchings with this telecast and media routine, and that is probably propagating and creating this issue of mob lynching. Then mob lynching per se, India. I'm not condoning mob lynching. India is a gigantic country. We've had lunatics across the space, and they are large numbers. As a percentage of population and as a instance to worry about, it's not in the top 100 things India has to worry about.
But they are using these issues to divert attention from the main problem, which is the economy.
Are they or are the media outsourced?
But they are
They are
perpetrating
not
this.
talking about mob lynchings. The government is not talking about mob. They would rather nobody talked about it.
The opposition, like the government, is using this as a vehicle in order to drive the focus
The
away.
opposition is so stupid that they know that the government doesn't want to talk about the economy, and they still talk about mob lynching. Then it's an opposition problem, not a government problem. The contention is, okay, mob lynchings, one instance. Anything else?
So, bringing back to the point, let the media attention and the opposition attention be on all this mob lynchings and everything. What is the government actually doing? As in, they might as well do something for the economy. Or
Regulatory, legal framework to put this. They've actually incarcerated people. They've gone after people who have perpetrated mob lynchings.
Yeah,
But they are in jail.
yeah, that's correct. I'm talking about the other point in the sense that what he mentioned was they are the whoever is
What
doing
have they
this-
done for economy?
Yeah,
Or
what are they doing?
else
For
they have done?
example,
Forget about
in
this.
other
We'll come to
countries-
that. We'll come to that. I just don't want to take the focus we're talking about is the country has become more divisive,
Okay.
more divided. Mob lynchings, yes,
Okay.
but I'm not willing to accept that this is the driver. It is something
Okay.
else.
I hope you have read about the Unnao rape case.
Okay.
I hope so.
Yeah.
The idea is that a girl got raped, if I'm not wrong, as a young girl, not
3-4 years.
adult, and it was perpetrated by a BJP MLA. It took them so much media attention and so many months for the BJP to disown the MLA, and her entire family is kind of killed. The lawyer is killed. The girl was, the girl ran while burning. Somebody poured petrol on her and then burning.
See, the issue
The
here-
government should say,
Should have
hey,
taken
this,
more phones
this is
and-
wrong. Don't do this.
Cut you short. 1 second. 1 second. See, I'm not discussing the issue of what is wrong with this government. I'm discussing one narrow issue. There's been a lot of accusation that the government has been divisive. This is corrupt, morally vacant, abuse of power, shielding an MLA, banding together. But this is not divisive. If anything, it has united people. Everybody knows that this is stupid. And my only contention is that we have all thrown their divisive against them. What have they done to be divisive? That's the argument I'm
Yeah,
hearing
but-
from very credible, intelligent, smart, right-wing people. They've said, look, I don't find this. I don't find this government having taken these actions to divide people.
But
What have they done?
I'm not sure how exactly this is relevant. This is just my point. First of all, they should not be using religion when they are in power. In the sense, as a
Where are they
government,
using?
they are promoting the Ram Mandir's case. They are fighting for Ram Mandir being built, and
So even on the Ram Mandir issue,
Yeah.
they've consistently said, we want this as an ideological plank. Rather than RSS, VHP, Bajrang Dal, BJP claim for years.
okay,
The RSS, Bajrang Dal, VHP, BJP claim was there in 91, 97, 2003, 2010, 2017. We've got a long history of that set of claims. Throughout, the government has said, this is a claim, there is a movement, let's listen to the courts. And then the courts finally delivered a verdict. There is nothing in this process that is wrong or worse or more wrong than what it was in 92 or 98 or when the courts of UPA governments or Congress governments or coalition governments were in place. What is this government doing?
Okay,
to
about
exploit any of
about the divisiveness. For example, let's say they have this national register. So you need people to register. And then what if some poor Muslim Indian is unable to prove he does not have let's say a driving license.
Correct.
They have made like 5 documents mandatory if I'm not wrong.
See,
If that is the case,
that-
and is poor and he cannot establish, suddenly the government can make him stateless. Can.
Government, which is representative of all the communities and all the sectors of the society,
Correct.
cannot take a stance only for Hindus in a secular country like India.
Correct, I
A
understand.
Muslim majority country can take the stance because they've openly admitted that Muslim is the major.
Islam is the state
Islam is
religion.
the
So we
state.
do not have a state religion.
We do
Correct.
not have that. We do not have a language called Hindi as a national language.
Correct. Correct.
Yet the center is trying to impose these Hindutva motives. Like it is not explicitly mentioned, but everyone knows that there's a difference.
No, but see, one is we're all assuming that there is a set of Hindutva motives. True, that's undeniable. There is a set of Hindutva motives. We are saying that they are introducing this in a set of things. But what I don't understand is sometimes we are protesting the idea rather than an action.
No, is there a little bit of dictatorship combined with this democracy? That is the major problem of.
It's an election, you vote them out. They have 3 years. They have 3 years more.
No, the
Or
majority
4
is
years more.
Hindus. The majority is Hindus, so they might stay in power. The case is there a dictatorship? Suppose a UPA government
No,
comes
but
in, there is not.
I
there
think
no
it is
dictatorship.
unfair to underestimate the power of democratic institutions in India. To think 2 people can hijack the whole process over a 3-year period. It won't happen. We need to have faith in the country and the democratic institutions.
Correct, but what if it is? As in there is lot of media management that is happening.
You think there is media management only from one end? Most of the media outlets that you and I are consuming are wildly held and constructed and held by the opposite end of the spectrum. For every Republic TV, there are 2 NDTVs. So for every rabid right-wing channel, there are at least 2 who are virulently anti-Modi, and they are given bandwidth.
See, I'm not saying. See, I don't have anything against party A or party B. ideologically I'm not either supporting right or the left. Right? I want to be a common spectator and then say, okay, what is happening? There is no alternative. At least as on date, there is no credible alternative that we can choose. In terms of,
So this
okay, we want to
government, you're
replace BJP with some other party.
Fine,
There is
the
no credible
opposition is weak,
alternative.
no denying that.
The opposition is weak, right? So I have, or lot of people did not have a choice to make at that point of time. In terms of they felt like, okay, this is the thing.
They have
But
been voted
what
for.
does the government propagate matters. What
See,
information
you
that
cannot-
they manage
you cannot-
matters. I'll give you one instance. As in the entire election was swept because of, as in predominantly it was swept because of the wave of Balakot airstrike that happened.
Exactly.
It happened. Right?
Okay.
As in,
I'm not
across
sure
the
about that, but I'll
across
take
the
your
north,
point.
lot of rallies happened where there was lot of chest thumping that happened about the airstrikes that happened. But post election, Indian Air Force or some in Army, Navy, some one organization released an information where they mentioned that they had shot our own helicopter where 16 or 17 Jawans of us were shot down by us. But that information was held on until the day election, 2 days prior to the election, it was held on to. I mean, it was not released to public.
Even the hyper nationalism, I agree. But according to the divisiveness, I think we are all. I'm worried. So I'm very worried that we are all getting panicky with a set of thought crimes, and we are beating ourselves. And there's not even events have actually not happened. Events have not happened. Supporting our argument that they're divvying up the country. You're underestimating the extent to which Indians can unite, and wildly overestimating the extent to which the BJP has taken actions to divide the country. Even nationalism, there are two planks. We're talking about right wing, hyper nationalism and divisiveness, polarization on religious grounds mostly, not rich and poor, religious grounds effectively. Then a little bit of north south. So they like dividing. It's unambiguous. It is an electoral strategy. Fine, I'm not finding on the ground evidence for them having divided people up aggressively. Nationalism, at least I agree that they've been doing it, and they've won them. They've done it well. They've done it phenomenally well.
I'm not worried about north-south divide or nationalism. As in, I'm not worried about any of these things individually, but I'm worried about how big the media management happens. I think that is an issue that can cover, as in, see, from a common man point of view, let's say I'm a 5th standard educated, I'm a coolie worker, or I never went to school, I'm a coolie worker, right? I have some ideologies, I like Rajini, I like some star, I vote for MGR. Until today, I vote for MGR because Rettailada MGR sonar, so I vote for MGR. MGR is nowhere here. Amma is also nowhere here, but I still vote for some party because of that. Now, how does that person, or there are probably billions of such individuals in the country who also decide the fate of what happens to the country.
Our
And
press is
if the
free.
if
Press is not being muzzled. Far worse crimes happened in India with the press being muzzled by centrist governments consistently. That's not happening now. That's not. I keep hearing this media management thing. For every rabid BJP puff that we all hear, you also hear an equally rabid. These guys are unsubstantiated. Equally rabid, equally unsubstantiated. I just don't trust these guys. They scare the bejesus out of me. Therefore, they must be doing something wrong. I'm worried that the liberal backlash is not getting anywhere. If you count me as a liberal, I feel that the liberals will keep screaming and crying hoarse. Every time they cry hoarse, right wing gets happier. Because they feel that, dude, there's nothing in it. You've not done anything yet. You're screaming and
but should we keep waiting until somebody does something? That's my point.
Or will you contest thought crimes? The liberals in our country are all worried that Amit Shah is thinking something devious. That's the truth. The liberals in this country are paranoid that Amit Shah is cooking up some devious scheme, which he probably is. But you can't put him in jail for that.
I'm not saying we
have
should
to
put
No, the
stop
opposition
pressure
is
him
weak.
to stop
We agree on
implementing
that.
that.
The opposition is weak. They should do something better.
No, I'm not even talking about the Congress and BJP. I'm talking about people. The articulation of the argument against what is wrong in this
No,
country.
sir, media massaging happens a lot.
Both sides.
Yeah,
But
but
There is no.
I am saying you are being conditioned by the liberal media who have told you that everything is going kaput. Nothing is going
Amount of resources being backed for the primary government is more when compared to Congress, for example.
Not
so even for
Congress.
the IT trolls which are happening
in
on
some
the internet,
sense, I lose lot of trust when the more I know there is media massaging happening. For one instance is this. Army gave out this information that we shot our own helicopter.
Correct.
It
And
is
that was
not media
released
massaging.
and even the Jamia Millia incident where nothing happened, even though the police were standing outside, they let the perpetrators free. So even that organization was again part of the ABVP, which is again the student wing of RSS, and that ideology then.
Correct.
grows-
See, the thing that every time you hear this,
It took at least like 4 or 5 different video proofs and everything for
And-
ABVP to disown those people.
And still the charges were filed against the Aisha Ghosh. Like,
ABVP is a rabid organization. ABVP is part of the Lunia segment of this.
I agree, but
it's
they
not
are
the government.
they feel
But the
more
po-
empowered because the police can stand still. It happens.
police
It
was
happens.
under the force of the central government, which again then it was their responsibility to make sure that everything was properly. So why did they leave them out?
Correct. So, see,
So the
government has
Unnao rape
transcript.
case or
See,
the
you can play the
ABVP
same
thing
thing
happens.
that happened in 1990, 91, 92 when Mr. Narasimha Rao was in power. The guys went and rampaged and destroyed a giant mosque. Thousands of people, when the police was standing, did nothing. That happened under a centrist
But
government.
that was
That was an actual event that happened.
Yeah,
All
but-
this is just chatter. There is nothing in our history that has been so rabid and so left to happen like that instance.
Yeah.
It was a completely definition of centrist government run by a wonderful politician, Mr. Narasimha Rao. That is the rabidity which is there. Which
But,
is bad.
But
That happened
we
in
don't want to
UP.
fuel, right? We don't want to fuel it.
But that happened in UP, and UP was controlled by BJP. Kalyan Singh of
At
BJP
any
was a
point of time, the central government could have stepped in. Mr. Narasimha Rao chose to not step in.
okay.
Lalu Prasad Yadav didn't let it happen in Bihar. He said, this Rath Yatra comes inside, I'll put you in jail. And he did. He was waiting. He was patrolling the streets of Bihar. So the state government didn't do it, but center could have stepped in. So the rabid lunar elements are there. They've always been there. I'm just worried that we are giving them the breathing space by talking about them and elevating them to
I am
Chanakya
worried
levels.
that the government in some sense is enabling, or maybe not the government, but the party that is in power is enabling them to become more brazen and
Fostering-
more rabid without, as in, I'm not saying you should clamp down, but
Okay.
at least they should have a fear that, okay, suddenly maybe I'll get arrested.
So they
don't even have that fear.
Put in their place when they are talking bollocks. Possible. That could be happening. That aspect is worrisome. I'm not saying that nothing that scares me. The slight mild autocratic tendencies, the ability to divide, the power to run a news calendar of things. Look, we'll do this, then we'll talk about idea, then we'll do Article 370, then we'll do CA, NRC. This keeping passions on a boil is something they're doing wonderfully well.
And-
I'm just worried that the liberals are getting worked up before the event. There's nothing that's happening.
In some sense, it is also anticipation, right? As in, you don't want
Like,
it to
better
go
be
to such
safe
an
than
extent.
sorry. Like, that's the entire thing.
Correct, but my thing is we're burning ourselves out. The liberals are burning
And,
themselves out without